Hey friends, and welcome back to 155 Books. So it is officially coming into autumn, and I kind of wanted to do a semi-vlog wrap-up video, I guess, where I talk about the books that I have finished recently and over the summer that I haven't really talked about yet, but ones that are really worth discussing. Talking about the books that I'm currently reading, as well as unboxing some really exciting books that I know are on their way to me, and a few other things. Just letting you know what I'm kind of up to on this cusp into autumn, I guess. So obviously I want to start off by talking about 3 books that I've finished from summer up to now that I really enjoyed, or that kind of like surprised me a little bit, I guess. And then later I'm going to talk about the books that I want to read specifically in autumn that aren't part of my autumn TBR, because I've actually read quite a few of those already. I got a bit excited, so I've kind of created a separate additional autumn TBR that you will see at the end of this video. So the first book I really want to talk about is A Movable Feast by Ernest Hemingway. So this is a short story collection that Hemingway wrote when he was living in Paris, and I read this over the summer, and I feel like it was the perfect book to read in the summer when I was in Cyprus. I was reading it on the beach, I was reading it in the queue for the airport. It was just so digestible, and this is a book that's really got me into the idea of short stories and reminded me of how much I love Ernest Hemingway's writing. There were so many things I loved about this, including the name drops and stories that included other authors. F. Scott Fitzgerald and his wife Zelda are mentioned, and it's really eye-opening about the kind of person Zelda is and their relationship, if it's something that you weren't aware of already. Both very heavy drinkers, not great people. What I also liked about this is that it shows that Ernest Hemingway maybe isn't the best person either. It shows his gambling issues, and this short story collection just felt like he was chronicling like his everyday life, which he does a really great job of. I hate that he does that. Portraying in this sort of like your average everyday man kind of way. So if you're not like famous, or if you don't have loads of money, you still feel like you can relate to Hemingway, which, like I say, is something that I think I've enjoyed about his previous books. There were just so many instances in this that made me laugh, that made me smile, that like made me look at him and be like, oh, he takes the mick out of himself, which I love. Some of the other people he meets are awful, which again paints him in a better light. But the thing I loved most about this was that if you're someone that's into modern classics like The Great Gatsby, if you've read F. Scott Fitzgerald, if you've read Hemingway, there's kind of like breadcrumbs to the books that you know that they're talking about. So for instance, Hemingway alludes to the instance on the bus where he left his very first manuscript, which then led him to write Fiesta, or The Sun Also Rises. So there's kind of breadcrumbs where you can tell he's kind of talking about that. You can tell when he meets F. Scott Fitzgerald, some of the stuff he's working on isn't great, and then he gives The Great Gatsby to Hemingway to read, and he reads it and is like blown away and says no one can write like Fitzgerald can. There's I think a few mentions of some of the Russian authors. It's just one of those literary books or short story collections that is connected to other novels. So if you're someone, like I say, that enjoys the modern classics and those kind of authors, then I think that you'd really enjoy this. The other beach read I really enjoyed was, like I say, a surprising one that I read very quickly, but an author that I kind of had given up on, and this one made me realise that I'm silly in wanting to give up on this author, but that is Cariso is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So I do love Taylor Jenkins Reid. I love every book of hers that I read. But nothing will ever beat Daisy Jones and the Six for me. It was the first one I read of Taylor Jenkins Reid's novels, and I'm glad that it's the first one I read. I'm glad I didn't read Evelyn Hugo first. Reading Evelyn Hugo after kind of made me feel like, oh, Taylor Jenkins Reid kind of does the same thing with all of her books. I've also read Malibu Rising, which I really enjoyed, but I wouldn't reread. So I think the only one that I would possibly reread is Daisy Jones and the Six. And for that reason, I think I'd convinced myself Taylor Jenkins Reid wasn't worth my time. And this book made me realise, even if I just read this book once, that's fine, because my experience while reading it was great. This one specifically I think I enjoyed because obviously it follows tennis in the 80s, 70s. So yes, this one follows the tennis scene and a famous tennis star from sort of like the 50s through to the 90s, because it kind of goes through Carrie's initial rise to stardom and then obviously her return to the court. But this book is so much more than the tennis, which I loved because I love watching tennis anyway, and reading this while the tennis was on the television, like while Wimbledon was on, was something else. Like, it was great. Because then I kind of felt like just everything was tennis related and I loved it. It was great. But this one also has kind of other themes to it, especially to do with Carrie herself, in terms of what winning means and what it means to win and be a winner. This is potentially one I would return to, and it is one that I would recommend. I would say it's probably in my top 3 of Taylor Jenkins Reid novels that I have read, as I really enjoyed the experience of reading this, and obviously if that's not what reading is about, then I don't know what is. So the third and final book I really want to talk about today is the book that I finished most recently. So this book was on my autumn TBR, and I started it and then I could not stop devouring it. I read it really quickly despite it being quite a big book, and that is East of Eden by John Steinbeck. So obviously I listened to this one on audiobook, and when I tell you, this is everything you want in an audiobook and more. So this one follows 2 main families, the Hamiltons and the Trasks. I would say it's semi-generational. It does start off with the sort of like main characters' parents and kind of gives you a background on their upbringing, and then mainly focuses on that next generation, and then obviously it does go into their relationships and the children, but it mainly follows Adam Trask and Samuel Hamilton, and I loved every single character in this. So it's a very interesting take on stories from the Bible, mainly Adam and Eve and Cain and Abel. Thankfully, because I'm not well versed in those, the middle part of the book, there's a conversation that Adam and Sam Hamilton and a few other people have about Cain and Abel and generations, and how your parents, yourself and your children all basically live out the same fate, and it returns to that constantly throughout this book, because there are certain aspects where you can see through names, through things that happen, that it's just history repeating itself, and like I say, that's just one of the many themes in this. The women in this novel made me kind of question and Google whether John Steinbeck was perhaps a misogynist, especially because I've read Of Mice and Men, and again, the way women are portrayed in that he kind of writes women in the same way, but there's one particular woman in this, Kathy, who is like the writing of Kathy and her character is just out of this world, and to the point where no matter what she does, you cannot stop reading because you're like, this woman is insane. That's the only way you can describe it. And that's why, like I say, once I started reading this, I could not stop because I was so invested in the characters and what was going to happen and what was going on. The setting is so beautiful. John Steinbeck's writing is fantastic. And yeah, I just found myself caring about these characters really early on, needing to know what was going to happen. It ended in a beautiful way, because there was a particular point where I was a bit like, I have no idea how John Steinbeck is going to end this novel, and it's just the perfect ending to a perfect book. And it's one of these books that I've read that I'm really surprised isn't talked about more, especially because of the themes, maybe because it's so big in size it puts people off. Obviously I am aware it is a well-known classic, but in terms of people that I know that have read this, there aren't a lot of people I don't think I know that have read this, which was really annoying when I finished it because I just wanted someone to talk to. This is another one that I, as I was listening to it on audiobook, could imagine would be an amazing long form series. And then I found out that apparently Netflix are going to adapt it, and Florence Pugh will be playing Kathy, and I don't know how I feel about that. I can picture it. I think she could do Kathy very well, but again, it's one of those ones, will I be watching it and just be watching Florence Pugh, or will I be watching Kathy? So we will see about that. And no other characters or actors have been announced so far, but apparently from the get-go they casted Florence Pugh as Kathy. I also don't know where it is in terms of development, but it's one to keep an eye out for, I guess. So I've just had 2 very exciting parcels arrive, and this never happens because I haven't really been buying that many books recently, and if I do, it's normally in the store. But this is one of them. Is a pre-order, which is probably going to be very clear what this is going to be. The other one is a very exciting parcel from Victoria, because she recently released some seasonal bookmarks, and there was one that was really cute that I just had to order. So I'm going to open these now. It's so pretty! I don't know if I ordered like the Waterstones special edition or if I just ordered... I just remember it being announced and I clicked pre-order like so quickly. So I don't know if this is just the ordinary one or... Oh, it's signed! I didn't realise it was signed! I do this all the time. I'm just terrible. But you should be able to see on here that it says it is signed by the author. But it is absolutely gorgeous, and it's a sticker, which I don't like, so that is going to have to come off at some point. But it's big. I wasn't expecting it to be this big, because Sally Rooney's books are normally quite short, although Beautiful World, Where Are You was also a little bit longer, which I really enjoyed. And I actually don't know much about this other than it follows, I believe, 2 brothers who are very different. Is it brothers? Yes, brothers. And I've also heard that this one is a weeper. It's a bit darker than some of Sally Rooney's other books, which is kind of the direction I think she needed to go in, or she was maybe going to lose some audiences. I love her books, but it's definitely time for her to do something a little bit different. Yeah. And I don't want to read too many reviews about this because that's what I did with Beautiful World, Where Are You? And everyone I saw reviews for hated it, which put me off reading it, and then I obviously ended up reading it and loving it. But I don't want to have to wait like a year and a half before I pick this up. So like I say, I'm hoping to just dive straight into this soon. By soon, it's probably going to be in the next couple of months. And now on to my bookmark. I also love how Victoria... I will link Victoria's channel and Etsy store in the description box for you guys, and you should definitely go and check it out. Victoria's channel is like charity based, including her bookmarks and her Etsy store, so everything she makes goes to charity, which I think is such a wonderful, beautiful idea in this day and age. But yes, I'm very excited. Oh! I'm going to use my letter opener, my fancy schmancy letter opener. Oh, what else is in here? Ooh. Oh, yay. Oh, it's a little sticker. Little bookish sticker. Yay. I love that. I feel like that's so me. Yes. I'm going to have to work out where to put that. Look, it's wrapped in Halloween paper. That's so exciting. Oh, it opens so nice. I love this washi tape as well. These look like butterflies. I know, Ace. Ace is making noises in the background. You may be able to hear that. I kind of don't want to rip it. It's so pretty. So cute. It's just little happy pumpkins. Look at how happy the pumpkins are. Yes, yes. So this is going straight into the book I'm currently reading. I'm swapping them out because I'm just too excited about the happy pumpkins. Like, look at them. They're so cute. So speaking of the books that I am currently reading, there are only 2 at the moment that I'm currently reading in between sort of seasons. At the moment, I'd say it's more coming into autumn. But I've basically almost finished my entire autumn TBR. But one of the main ones I'm currently reading is Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. Now, when I started this book, I had that moment of screaming at myself, saying, why have I not started this sooner? Because it was just everything I wanted it to be and more. The writing was really beautiful. It really kind of, what's the word? Immediately gets you into the setting and the feeling of this book. Obviously, Shakespeare is involved from the very first page. I was intrigued by the characters. The chapters are quite short, which I also love. And then also, every chapter was ending with a, oh my god, what kind of cliffhanger. But now we're more into the post-apocalyptic era, I guess, of this book, which is kind of what I knew about this, I guess, that it was going to be in a post-apocalyptic kind of setting. And I'm not going to lie, it's kind of put me off. I've read the first 50 pages really quickly, and then since then I've been a bit like, because like sci-fi isn't really my thing, especially like post-apocalyptic-y things. Yeah, I mean, I thought this one might be a bit more interesting because of how the apocalypse kind of happens in this. It's a pandemic, which, realising that this was written in 2014, and the kind of pandemic it is, it's very similar to COVID. So if this is something that, you know, is a trigger for you, I would not pick this up. Because the first 50 pages are very heavy with that. And it does basically show how catastrophic something like COVID could be. I mean, it was anyway, if, for example, it had affected everyone equally. But yes, I am still obviously very intrigued about where this one is going to go. It's now looking as though it might turn a bit sort of like culty, like post-apocalyptic cult. I'm not really sure, but that's kind of the vibe I'm getting with where the story is at the moment. But like I say, still really enjoying obviously the Shakespeare elements, but that is obviously the main reason why I picked this up. And I am kind of seeing that maybe that's not going to be the biggest theme throughout this, as I kind of thought it would be from the get-go. And the other book I am currently reading is sort of like my nighttime read. It's the one that's on my bedside table, and I just read a couple of these before I go to bed, because I'm not a big before bed reader, because by the time I get into bed I'm knackered. I'm more of a reader in the morning and my lunch break throughout the day rather than night. But this is a book that I've actually been meaning to read before bed for a really long time, because it's just the perfect book to do that with. So it's Bygone Badass Broads, 52 Forgotten Women Who Changed the World. And it's so interesting. I love the way it's written. So it's written by Mackenzie Lee, who I do believe also wrote A Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue. Yeah, and I've not got much left of this. I've only got about 30 pages left, but so far, like I say, some of the women it's featured and the way it's written is very like modern, so it kind of gives you a modern perspective on these women and why they're like so awesome, to the point where I kind of want a singular TV series for every single woman featured in this so far, because they're all so cool. The artwork in this is also really, really beautiful, and it's kind of making me want to read A Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue. So if you've read it, and if you know my reading taste, you think I would enjoy it, please let me know in the comments, and I may add it to my TBR. So to close off this video, I really want to talk about the 3 books I want to read soon. So like I say, this is kind of, I guess, an extended autumn TBR. I'm in the mood for a spooky October mini TBR, and I guess this is kind of what this is going to be. I don't even know if I'm going to finish my current reads. I might just dive straight into these, one especially because I feel like I could finish it in a day easily, so I might set aside a Sunday where I just sit down and devour this, and you'll soon see or find out why. So the first one I want to talk about is Macbeth by William Shakespeare. So I've kind of hit that point in my chronicle of the Shakespeare plays that I'm reading where I've got kind of bored. None of the ones in the lineup chronologically are ones I kind of want to read, and Macbeth is one of the last ones that Shakespeare wrote, so it's going to be a very long time until I revisit this. So I thought, why not treat myself to maybe a different favourite Shakespeare read in October, and what is better than Macbeth, with the scary witches, and it's a tragedy, and I just love this one so much. It's a great one to read. I've always loved Macbeth, and it's been a while since I read this, so I feel like I've probably forgotten why I love it so much. So like I say, reminding myself of that is going to be super exciting. And because I will be rereading Macbeth, I thought that reading one of my many Shakespeare retellings would probably also be a good idea. So I would really like to get to Lady Macbeth by Ava Reid. She's just so pretty, she's so pretty. And mainly because this is the shorter of the 2 Macbeth retellings I have. And I think the one I'm probably most interested in because I heard really good things about this. So yes, I would love to reread Macbeth and then pick this one up straight after, so I've got a refresher of the actual Shakespeare play that this is going to be based on, just so I can, you know, make those comparisons and tell you whether or not it is a decent retelling or spin on the original story. And this next book I picked up while on a trip to London with my mum, so we just decided randomly to one Sunday go to London for the day because we haven't done that in a really long time. We went for Sunday lunch, we went to Greenwich, I obviously went to the bookshop, we went on the boat, and it was a great time, as it always is. And this book had been released just before we went, so obviously I knew what I was going to be picking up in the bookshop, and that is of course Graveyard Shift by M.L. Rio. I feel like October's going to be a great month for me. I'm going to have M.L. Rio, I'm going to have Shakespeare, I got Sally Rooney's new book, I'm reading another Shakespeare book. It's just a great time. It is a great time. I love autumn, it's my favourite season. Honestly, I'm just living life right now. So obviously this is a short story, I would say, by M.L. Rio. It's her only other release since If We Were Villains, and only other release other than If We Were Villains. And I wasn't sure if I actually wanted to buy and read this because I'm one of those people who, for example, The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak is one of my favourite books of all time, and I have never read or wanted to read another Marcus Zusak book because I would just be comparing it to The Book Thief, and I kind of felt the same way about M.L. Rio and If We Were Villains. But then I read some reviews and those cheeky reviews on Waterstones basically said that this has all the same themes, or very similar themes to If We Were Villains, so if you enjoyed that you would enjoy this too, and I was just immediately sold. So yes, again, I'm kind of going into this one semi-blind. I do believe it follows a graveyard over the course of one evening, and maybe one or a group of friends visiting the same graveyard in shifts, and different things happen. That's all I need to know. Yes. So, like I say, I cannot wait to hopefully set aside some time on a cosy Sunday wet evening to just absolutely devour this and hopefully really enjoy it. So I officially feel so in the mood for autumn. I feel I can now tie up and say that I'm done with summer and it's all about autumn from here on out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you soon in my next video. Toodles!